We're going to get started with our next thing here, which is just a brief prelude from Barbara to kind of summarize where in her consciousness we're at right now in our process, and then we're going to jump right into music after that. Also, there is a quick announcement about meditation and crystal bowls starting at 6:30 in this room tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Wow. The question is, what's happening? The question is, my darlings, what's happening? We have about 5 to 10 minutes here, but to identify, it's very important in evolution to notice what's happening. Particularly if what's happening is new. And if it is new, you want to notice what's new about it, because that makes you have evolutionary eyes. Evolutionary eyes notice what's new. So I want some ideas for a few minutes about what you feel is new, not just for you personally, but this gathering. I mean, we've all been to so many gatherings. What's new about this? Just anybody who wants to say what it is. And could you get another mic for us, please, so we can hand it around?
What's new and possible for all of us is to have the Pentecostal experience that Hein spoke of in ourself. For all of us in the resonant field of the Holy Eight, that's its potential. And then it happened to me, sitting there, and I took it to my group. And it's actually God or Jesus, God drops into you. You actually feel it in all your cells. It's real, it's embodied. So the Pentecostal experience is the potential, one of the potentials of the Holy Eight.
Well, this is so important, and I just want to make a comment because I got a Jesus experience in which she dictated an evolutionary New Testament through me, in which I looked at the New Testament from the point of view of evolution. And one of the chapters is called the Planetary Pentecost. Exactly around around the story of the original Pentecost, when the disciples were in the upper room and they all could hear in their own language, et cetera, as Heinz was saying. And what I received in the evolutionary New Testament is that the planetary Pentecost would be when enough of us, at that time was television, but enough of us are on internet saying these words that we will attract everybody on earth who is attuned to the story of the awakening of humanity. So let's say I would like to sanction your wonderful thought of the Holy Eights, but let's think of actually a planetary Pentecost. A planetary Pentecost. Anybody else want to say what's new?
Just want to add to that one with the Pentecost. It's not a quality of the Holy Eight, it's a quality beyond the Holy Eight.
Way beyond the Holy Eight.
It is the quality of that how we come together here. The Holy Eight is stabilizing something like how we come together, but the Pentecost is the whole group.
So maybe this is a big enough group to feel enough resonance as a group, as we are coming together in the surprise of this much resonance in this many people who've never met each other, to feel it so fast and so easily, that we are having a mission collectively to maintain this resonance. So it's not just a one-time event, but what I was thinking, if we are on internet and we do continue to speak, and you were saying, Jean, something about like every Thursday or whatever it is, whoever wants to say something, that maybe we are establishing a field of stability for the ever rising experience of the Holy Eight as a holy community,
Yes.
perhaps.
It's beyond, Barbara. The Pentecost is beyond the Holy Eight.
Oh, yes, but the
Clear.
Holy Eight holds the resonance
it's-
field
yes.
so that because I would say the more members of this group that can find your own resonant groups within the larger group, the more we'd be able to maintain the resonance, because it's hard to hold group resonance without the smaller groups. You see what I mean? If this group is meant to hold a field of resonance, it's probably important that as many people as possible form their own holy eights or whatever number it is. Okay. Now that is like a huge insight, folks. We don't want to just cross over in that and go to the and next. Let's just dwell on that for a moment. What if that's true? What if what's so extraordinary for me about this event, because I kept saying, what is happening that's so new here for me? Yes. Add to the Pentecost. Where is it? Where's a little mic for her, please? Thank you. I'd like that. I'd like to add a little bit to the Pentecost. That's a nice thought. Okay.
You said Saturday church.
Yes.
What was happening on Saturday?
Saturday's church
So-
is tomorrow. Yeah, we're having a little church tomorrow in the other
okay.
room.
Yeah. So in the same vein, Barbara, what about Saturday church? What was happening on Saturday? I asked the question, what was happening in the days prior to Pentecost, those 10 days before it all happened, came down on them? They were together in the room,
Yes,
and I always like to imagine, what were they doing?
that's a good question.
Because I'm figuring that it wasn't all sweet, and it wasn't all religious, that they were actually dealing with some hard stuff between themselves
This is true because
concerning perhaps leadership. Who's going to lead us now? Jesus is not. What's the nature of the new leadership?
you know what I do remember from the story? This question that I remember the Galileans who knew Jesus well got up to speak, and they were all speaking in their language. And the story goes that everybody in this international gathering in the upper room understood the language of the Galileans, even though they didn't speak that language. So somebody said, "What's happening here? How come we can all understand the language of the Galileans?" Then Peter got up and he said, "This is what has been prophesied by the prophet Joel." And we never heard of the prophet Joel before, but the prophet Joel evidently said that in the last days, the Lord will pour spirit on all flesh, and your young men will see visions, and your old men will dream dreams. And after that, the disciples left the upper room where that Pentecost happened, and they had the powers of a natural Christ. They could heal. They could break the bonds of prison. They could bless. That's the story. And so what would be the planetary Pentecost? Are we in a little upper room right now? Is this a little upper room? Yes? Could we have the mic, please? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take this long, but I'm going to continue this just for a minute because it's a huge subject.
I feel like, as you said, is it a mission? How do we bring forth this mission? And I almost think that it's an e-mission. That we are this, and the universal language is an energetic language, and it is being transmitted.
Right here and now, yes.
And that the second coming is each of us. everywhere,
Beautiful.
globally.
Thank you. So I know I have to conclude this. I'm going to be doing an evolutionary church next door on the theme of the planetary Pentecost tomorrow at 10 to 11 a.m. So anybody who wants to come next door and peek in on it, we'll be glad to have you.
Just one more thing on the Pentecost. One of the things that I will never, ever be able to have leave my awareness about that is how it says in Scripture that when the disciples went out into the streets, even their shadow healed people.
Wow.
And this is not talking about, our dysfunctional shadow. This is talking about the shadow and their garments, and very reminiscent of when the woman touched the hem of Jesus's garment
Right.
and was healed. So the very vibration of your consciousness becomes an igniter of consciousness in others, even if you don't speak any words. Just your presence brings that level of healing. And this is why love is so important. Your presence as a living energy of love will heal wherever you go.
Thank you. So here, I'm going to conclude this now. I was guided by this spirit of an evolutionary Christ, you could say that the alternative to Armageddon is a planetary Pentecost. Now that's a huge statement. The alternative to Armageddon will be enough people joined together in that noosphere, which is what Teilhard de Chardin said, such that there will be an expression of enough love and consciousness to shift the consciousness field of Earth. And I believe that's true. I think it's the reason I was given, Barbara, the reason that you're still alive, you could be dead by now, is that you have this as part of your mission. And maybe what's happening here is by other people coming up with this idea, starting with Hunt, and then you, and then me, and then others, we can discuss it tomorrow. And I am going to do my evolutionary church tomorrow from 10 to 11 next door, so that you can peek in and hear it. And it's my church with Mark Gaffney, so I'm going to call him tonight and say, we're going to do the planetary Pentecost tomorrow. And it will be what it will be. But I'm so inspired by this that I know, turning the music now over to my beloved Jean and John, or whoever is going to do this, but you're going to be introducing us to a planetary Pentecost, because you know what? We're in the upper room.